Welcome to Bitcoin Original Gangster, the show that takes no shit when it comes to SegWit. We are the OGs and we will be defending Bitcoin gangster style. We'll be shooting from the hip and exposing the shit in shitcoins. The idea of this show is that you ask us your questions on crypto and we will tell you all that we know. And on that note, let's get the disclaimers out of the way. So all the opinions that you hear on this show are opinions and must only be taken as opinion and never taken as any form of advice, family, financial, sexual or otherwise. And on that note, let's rock and roll. Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Hello, is it working?
It is. Fantastic. How is this? How are you doing?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, a little bit muffled, but it's coming through okay. Can you hear me all right?
Okay. Yes, I do, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Well, great to meet you. I was looking at your name earlier. Is it, how do I pronounce it? Sylvain Cloutier?
Yeah, it's a French name, yeah. So Sylvain Cloutier, yeah, that's the French way, but
Sylvain
yeah,
Cloutier.
Sylvain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, you got it pretty good.
Oh, thanks very much. Well,
Yeah.
Great to meet you. I know I just sent you
good to meet you as well.
a Twitter the other day with a few of those, a few of my Medium articles in. So I've just pressed record anyway. So if you want, please feel free to tell everybody the show that you do, because that's how I first sort of noticed you.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks for having me on your show there. On YouTube initially I started with online marketing, that sort of thing, right? So but now, since I've loved crypto so much that I kind of decided to change the focus a bit on the channel. So yeah, now I kind of want to help people out understanding cryptocurrencies, its use, and then where we can actually go for better world adoption, that sort of thing. So that's I'm trying to talk about social media platform and the blockchain, that sort of thing, right? So that's what I'm trying to accomplish. It's still early, right, in the crypto space, right? So we can teach a lot of people where they can find different social medias, let's say like Twitch, for example. That's another great idea, right? So so I'm trying to discover that. I'll probably talk about Twitch actually in my next video. So yeah.
Excellent. So, when did you first discover crypto and Bitcoin?
I first discovered so crypto was actually a friend of mine introduced me to it was a trading company in the MLM space, right, in the States, and it was all about forex and cryptocurrency trading. So that's really where I started to do research about Bitcoin, blockchain in general, that sort of thing, right? So, but yeah, so essentially, I come from like that trading side of let's say the crypto space. So it's kind of different, maybe from your perspective, right? Yeah, so I came from that place, and then I've always been like passionate about reading more, learning more about it. Like there's lots of terms in there that I still don't understand to this day. So I'm trying to keep progressing my knowledge in cryptocurrency. And like I said, it's not always nice to do get some profits, do trading, but I also believe that there should be more like that. So that's how I can get around crypto nowadays. Yeah.
And when did you buy your first Bitcoin?
First bought was I think it was August 2018. So still fairly fresh into the cryptocurrency space. So so it was only in 2018. So I didn't benefit from the large price increase early on, right? So I'm fairly recent to it. Yeah.
Well, most people got wrecked in that anyway, so don't feel too bad about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was a lot of upswing, and then big crash, and then coming back up again, and then now it seems to be on the down low once more. So yeah.
So did any of my Medium articles help the other day to explain the situation as to where we find ourselves now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I guess I was almost almost came in the space same time, and like let's say BSV and BCH split it, right? So it was November 2018, correct?
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken. I was just having the articles on this side too. Having your Medium page up, trying to get me some ideas here of what. I think there was one here on the. Which one is? Oh, this one. So a tale of blockchain, BTC, BCH, BSV. So I think, from my perspective, it's always been like difficult because it seems like each blockchain seems to be saying that they're the Bitcoin, right? So that's, I think, from my perspective, that's kind of the challenge to navigate. And I kind of, for someone new in the space, I think it's kind of difficult for someone to like, oh, BTC is this, and then the other one's fake, and then it's hard to actually know like the truth underneath that. So that's my kind of perspective on it, right? So it's always like if you're new, and then you're just going to discover BTC more than likely because that's what's in social media more than often, right? And then BSV is always seen as like the scam, but I think there's a gap in there. We're missing some information, right? So, and I think you're bringing that forward with your articles in that sense. So yeah.
Yeah. So was I'm presuming you probably had, unless my articles were absolutely amazing and you understood them on reading them the very first time. How did you feel when you were reading the first article about the paradox of the centralized starting point? Is that something that had ever been explained to you before?
In that sense, no. I'm trying to find this one. Paradox of the centralized starting point.
Yeah, it's the very first one.
This one was really interesting. I think you go into was it that one about like trading and so on? So having kind of a medium of exchange, if I'm not mistaken.
It was more money. So it was basically, where do cryptocurrencies get their fundamental value from? Because because if something can be created by someone, it means that it can also be created by someone else, anywhere at any time, which would indicate there is an infinite supply. And if there's an infinite supply, it basically means it has no value whatsoever. So how do you create something and give it value when it's the very starting point that should imply that it doesn't have one?
Yeah.
That's the paradox that literally very, very few people can get their head around. So, for example, like, JP Morgan, for example, bringing out JP Morgan coin. They don't understand this concept. Facebook bringing out Libra coin. They don't understand this concept. Like the US government, the Federal Reserve, just made a statement today about how they might bring out their own digital dollar. They don't understand this because anything that has a centralized starting point, is effectively a token and only has value in a closed market that it's designed to be in. So, for example, if the US create a digital dollar, China's never going to use it. and if China creates their own, digital monetary, whatever it is they use, America's never going to use it. And if Russia create their own, then nobody else is going to use that. So how on earth do you get countries, these superpowers, to agree on using a currency when it's the very start point that effectively discredits it? So, I mean, I sort of give an example of Ethereum. So, if Vitalik created Ethereum, and the network grew over time, but because he started it, he has not created anything that the Chinese government could not just simply create themselves. And let's say Ethereum has got a market cap of 28 billion. All China has to do is create their own cryptocurrency, insist that all their citizens use it, and their country has got a GDP of 12.5 trillion. Then immediately overnight, you have a cryptocurrency with a market cap of $12.5 trillion. But America is never going to use it. So therefore, it doesn't actually have any real fundamental value. Fundamental value is something that the entire market is going to use. And this is the paradox that Satoshi Nakamoto solved with Bitcoin that I sort of like explained in the article. So he had to decentralize the starting point. So he wrote the paper in the English language and released it to the Western world. but he gave himself a Japanese pseudonym. That's your decentralized starting point. And so being from Japan, being a technologically advanced, highly developed, politically neutral country, it meant that people weren't going to question who the author was as much, because if he'd used a politically sensitive name like a Russian name or a Chinese name, people would be wondering who this guy is, or like a name from a third world. They'd be like, well, who is this guy? How's he got any credibility? What sort of education has he had? What political agenda is there behind it? Whereas giving himself a Japanese name, and Japan being relatively insular and only a very small number of people on the planet speaking the language, increased his chances of remaining unidentified for as long a period as possible, which allowed the network to grow without any central point of authority over a period of 10 years. And it's that growth of the network without any central point of authority that neither America or China can replicate. And to be honest with you, none of the other currencies can replicate. So that basically means that any currency that has a centralized starting point has no fundamental value at all, which basically means the only cryptocurrency that has any credibility whatsoever is one of the chains that starts at the Genesis block on Bitcoin. So if you're invested in Ethereum, or if you're invested in Litecoin or Cardano or XRP, or a proof of stake model, or a delegated proof of stake model, or IOTA's Tangle, or Hydra Hashgraph, they all have central points of authority, which means they have no fundamental value whatsoever, and that's a shitcoin.
You guys, I was actually watching your the show you were on yesterday on the Bitcoin SV channel.
Oh yeah.
So it was a good show yesterday. I found like it was kind of refreshing, a lot of different opinions and stuff. So it was I think it was River on there. There was another guy, which I'm not sure who it is, but so it was great. And then I think there was someone explaining about because I think there's a big debate on that. So if we look at the diagram where you see BSV like going straight, and then you see the other one forking off. Yeah. It's always, that one is always of debate, because what I hear online is always BSV is the fork of that. So, but I think yesterday they were explaining as think of it like, yes, not so much in the fork, but as the like protocol that would make it more like BSV kept the initial one, vice the other one. So I don't know if you have a bit more explanation on this one per se.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So BSV, the reason in the picture that you were looking at goes in a straight line is because that's the one that keeps the protocol that's defined in Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper. So that has not changed. That has kept on. But what people don't understand is that it's the ticker. People think it's the ticker that are the forks. So they're just like, well, this one's BTC and it's remained BTC. But what they don't understand is that the protocol of BTC has been changed fundamentally, and the reason they changed it is through SegWit. Have you heard of SegWit? Yeah,
there was the segregated signatures. Witness, yeah.
That's right, yeah. So do you understand why they did that and what the point was?
Why they did that, I don't understand per se. I believe it was Blockstream, right? That's right. Put that in place.
Yeah.
So it's all part of like signatures approving like the different transactions, right? So for that one, like I wouldn't be able to explain it per se, but maybe you can go ahead and
Yeah, so basically, if you look at where Blockstream got their funding from, the corporations that gave them their funding have suspiciously close links to the Federal Reserve. And if there's one organization or entity that doesn't want Bitcoin to succeed, it is the money printers themselves. Because ever since they have been created, they have been able to print as much money as they want and line their own pockets. So the issue is, well, they were just like, okay, well, we've effectively got an infinite supply of money behind us because we can just simply create it. However, we do have eyes watching us. So how much money can we throw at this, before, how much money can we throw at this before the carpet starts looking as though it's actually got something underneath it, and it doesn't look like we've just simply swept something underneath it. So they were able to basically get $100 million over to Blockstream and say, look, there's some money, back pocket, basically make sure this thing doesn't work. There's £1 million. Will you do it? And they were like, all right then. So that's basically in a nutshell what has happened. So one of the reasons they segregated the signatures was because they don't want the network to they don't want the signatures to validate the transactions on the network. Because if you add sort of like an anonymity to a system, that entity that added the anonymity have basically complete control over it because they are not accountable to anybody. So therefore, it is a centralized system. And it became centralized by segregating the signatures. So basically, they could get away with doing stuff.
Yeah.
And so this is why when we were saying, look, now that they have segregated the signatures by adding SegWit, it is no longer Bitcoin. But that's what a lot of people can't get around their heads. Because, again, you're dealing with different levels of intellect. Some people just can't get past Bitcoin is Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in that perspective, I think a lot of people tend to mention that for BTC, it's kind of an evolution, like Lightning Network. They're trying to evolve it to make it better. So I think that's the point that they're trying to make out of it, even though, like you're probably more than likely correct on, they've kind of forked off in different directions with SegWit. But a lot of people seems to be saying, while they're making evolution, Lightning Network is the future, that sort of thing. So because they're saying like, well, why would you keep that old stuff? We were trying to evolve, and I think that's the message they're trying to send. So I don't know what you would have to say about that one per se.
Yeah. So do you remember that other article that I wrote called "Reasonable Expectation Within Trade"?
Yeah, I read that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So legal recourse is fundamental to something being useful as a medium of exchange, because when you are transacting in trade, the medium of exchange is sent first, and then a good or service is expected in return. You don't just simply give somebody the good or service because they'll run off with it.
Yeah.
It's like, look, money first. Money talks and BS walks. So it's always the medium of exchange that is sent first. So you have to prove that you have sent that medium of exchange, and therefore you have a reasonable expectation of the good or service that you have effectively bought of being provided to you, which is why Misdescriptions Act and all that thing comes into play. Now the issue with Lightning Network, or and let's say in the banking system at the moment, like when we send money to each other that goes through this banking system, which is the third party, the banking system has a money transmitter license, which makes them a money service business, and that means that you can trust the information that they've sent you. They were like, these are the records that we are making on the ledger. Now, if you're using the Lightning Network and that Lightning Network node does not have a money transmitter license, and is not recognized as a money service business, you have no legal recourse on the ledger that they are just simply making for you. It means absolutely nothing. So therefore you have no legal recourse and no legal protection in the trade. If you've sent this Lightning transaction, and then this person does a runner and you don't get the good or service in return, you cannot then go to the legal system and enforce the contract, because there is no reasonable expectation, because you've sent them nothing of any value, or nothing that's recognized as any value. Legal tender. That's the issue. So you'd basically have to close the Lightning channel, and it costs you money to set up the Lightning channel in the first place. And then you would have to close it before anything goes through the blockchain. But again, the issue is if you're using these channels and not going through the blockchain, it means the blockchain is not being used. And if the blockchain is not being used, it means that miners are not being paid for the transactions that they're making. And with the block reward halving happening every 4 years, it just means that miners are just going to be earning less and less and less, and the project will just simply disintegrate, which is what their master plan is.
Yeah, and I think they're trying to say it because by raising the price, then they can get the equivalent like in what they lose, right? So the price is to go up. So I don't know. I think that's something I was hearing. It was like the price is to go up because otherwise they won't get paid. Well, it's like how does that happen?
Yeah.
Like you can't just force things to go up if it just doesn't want to go up. You know what I mean? Like.
Well, also, are you familiar with?
I guess that could be like. I missed that part. Can you say again?
Are you familiar with a Ponzi scheme?
Yeah. So usually it's just Ponzi. From my definition of it would be, anything that just joining a group and just putting money in it, and then but really you don't really get nothing out of it, no service or product really, and then you entice somebody else to join as well, and they pay you money, but then they don't really get anything in return, right? Except maybe like the profits off the top, let's say, but there's nothing of really value when it comes to like a product or a service. So I don't know if that's in line with what your definition is, but I think that's what I think it is anyway.
Yeah, so a Ponzi scheme is basically illegal because it grows and grows and grows until there aren't enough new investors to pay out the investors that came before them. And that's basically what BTC is. You've got all these people that have already bought BTC, encouraging new people to buy BTC, just so that those people who encourage the people to get in can sell out before those who got in later can sell out. That's it. This is what the concept of hodling is. In the fact that hodling adds no utility whatsoever because all they're doing is hoping that the price goes up so that they can sell. But when they sell, the price goes down, which screws the other people. They're not intending on using it in future as a medium of exchange. So if you were saying, oh yeah, I'm a BTC or I'm a hodler, when the price goes up to a certain amount, they're like, all right, I'm gonna cash out. When they cash out into fiat, and then they give that fiat to someone else, the network has not grown. They've not given that Bitcoin to anybody else for that person to then give to somebody else in exchange for more goods and services in the future. And that's how the network grows. So, if you buy Bitcoin with the intention of say, all right, well, I'm going to buy a Lambo, later on, so long as you pay for that Lambo with Bitcoin, that's fine. That's not hodling. That's storing your value and then spending it, which is spending it is what it's been designed for. It's designed to be a medium of exchange that's effectively deflationary, which will encourage other people to accept it because they're accepting a medium of exchange that increases in value. So they're just like, yeah, okay, I'll swap this Lamborghini that I've just built for that medium of exchange that's increasing in value. Great trade. So the person who gets their Lamborghini is happy, and the people who get their Bitcoin are happy. That's what it's meant to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's exactly what I'm saying because I felt like, joining like Bitcoin and stuff, I was like, I don't know, there's something that I'm not getting, or I don't know, it just cannot be only on like trading and, just huddling, like if you look again at the white paper, it says, peer-to-peer electronic cash system, right? So electronic cash system. So like, it needs to be used. So I was like, where's anyone using that? And I think we can clearly see it now with like the markets, not just Bitcoin because everything dropped like crazy. But I mean, if people would be you were to use it, I think we would see less of fluctuations, right? Because then people are not what they just did recently. It's like, oh, they saw the news and then they just sold and the price just went down, right? So big whales in the system, like, boom, sell order, boom, they cash out more money. Now they can buy it but he probably bought even at 38 when it dropped all the way down to that, right? So, and then, oh, let's buy again, you know what I mean? But they're just producing that. So it's just kind of a, and there's also a real case use, or whatever, real use case, or whatever they call it. And then some people claim like, Binance, their coin, the BNB or whatever, is a use case. I'm like, well, it's not really used. It's used if you're using Binance. But besides that, to me, it doesn't really serve any purpose. So I don't know, like, and again, I was trading and stuff like that, but I was like, oh yeah, it's got real use case in the world and stuff. Like, well, if you use Binance, but besides that, like, can you go shop and buy stuff maybe in the future? But I doubt for the moment anyway.
Well, also, think about the value of Binance token if Binance were to close down.
Yeah.
So basically,
it's got no value.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what a token is, and this is what a lot of people don't realize. So a token is a security because it is dependent on something. A token, like a security, is issued by a central point of authority, and if that central point of authority closes down or doesn't exist anymore, that token or security that they've given you suddenly has a price and a value of absolutely nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
this is what BSV is going for. So have you seen the Netflix documentary called The Greatest Hack?
Greatest? No, I haven't seen that one. No.
Okay. Well, basically there was
Put it in note down. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's on Netflix.
Okay.
Called
It'd be a great time to watch it now because it's everyone's like locked in their homes and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Great time to watch it. So, in part of that, it's about how data is as well. There's a line in it where a girl's talking about it, and she says 2016 was the first time that data became more valuable than oil. Because data on people won Trump his election. Yeah, so if you've got information on lots of different people, you can then use that information to, send out propaganda and marketing material and whatever to manipulate them. But, in order to get that data, you have to get it from somewhere. And so it was Facebook that was selling it. Facebook was selling that data. But my point being is that, businesses do not store customer records on bits of paper and file them away in filing cabinets anymore. Everything is digital. And at the moment, if it's digital, that data can be deleted. It can be cracked, hacked, altered, changed. There can be virus software, cybersecurity issues, nefarious members of staff that have got access to it. So data is absolutely paramount these days, which is why companies spend millions, if not billions, on securing their data, because if they lose a customer, particularly if they're a financial institution, if they lose a customer's records, they can be sued, they can be fined, they'll be publicly humiliated. Customers will lose confidence, share price will drop, heads will roll. They are just paranoid about their data. Now, blockchain technology, for the first time in history, immutalizes digital data. You can store that data on the blockchain and it is immutable forever. Because blockchain is effectively is a mathematical sum. So what we need to do is basically find a way to get that data onto the blockchain as fast as possible and as cheaply as possible. And that's what scaling the blockchain is all about. And that's what BSV does. BSV is scaling massively so that everybody can use it, and miners get paid for processing that data, and it costs as little as possible. Because if a miner was paid by an external source, that external source could just simply cut funding, and then the miners would go broke and they wouldn't be able to register anything on the blockchain. Whereas because Bitcoin self-funds, effectively it self-sustains the blockchain, it doesn't have any central point of authority or control. So therefore, when you upload data to it and a miner processes it for you, you own that data because the network itself is a distributed, decentralized, single ledger database. And this is what's so exciting. So businesses that want to keep their data safe now have a central ledger that they can keep it on because it's the single ledger itself that's actually distributed and decentralized. And that's what so many people miss here. And the applications for that are absolutely massive. So you probably remember the article I wrote about Bitcoin, the power of its decentralized distributed ledger, and I gave an example of air traffic controllers.
Yeah.
So the reason flight MH370 went missing is because every time the aeroplane left the airspace, of its country, they were then no longer responsible for it. So then when it popped up on their radar, there would have been a little bit of panic, but then when it left again, they were like, oh, it's gone, not a problem anymore. Phew. And then the other the Malaysian airspace was doing the same. They were like, what's that thing there? Oh, not a problem anymore. Oh, what's that thing there? Oh, not a problem anymore. We'll leave that then. Don't worry about that. Somebody else will be looking after that. Because they cannot have all those databases on a centralized source, because it just means that centralized source allows it to be attacked, and you could basically bring down the entire airline industry. Whereas now, all that data from the air traffic controllers can be, collated on a single ledger, because it's that single ledger that is distributed and decentralized. So therefore, you won't have any issues with planes going missing because they can all be tracked. This is what people don't get. So this is basically what Satoshi's vision was for. It's so much more than just cash. Effectively, Bitcoin finances this distributed, decentralized single ledger. It's not just money. And this is where like Bitcoin Cash are going wrong. And they're just, anonymous transactions, we want peer-to-peer cash. And it's just like, well, it's a bit like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. All they're saying is, these people, they've adopted it, and they've adopted it, and they've adopted it. Okay, but are they actually using it? They're not. They're just saying, well, we'll accept it if you want to give it to us, but, that's it. Whereas now, as in like Satoshi's vision, businesses will be, they'll be literally scrambling, climbing over themselves to buy BSV so that they can upload their data onto the blockchain. And the more people that use it, the lower the Satoshi per byte the miners can charge.
Mm-hmm.
And this.
So are we seeing any companies or like that are actually using that right now? So I think you probably attended the last conference or whatever. Have they presented companies that are actually going forward and using that, maybe beside like N-Chain and the ones that are into BSV, like anyone using it?
Yeah, so there's a company called EHR Data, and they are a company that keeps medical records.
Okay.
And they basically said that because of their size, they would need a blockchain that can handle, I think it was like 5,000 transactions a second. And BSV is what can do that for them. So they are putting 4 years worth of medical records and information onto the blockchain, but they've just started it. But prior to that, I mean, one of the reasons we got a price bump recently was because I think somebody bought about $50 million worth of BSV because they were basically, I think they were uploading the human genome to the blockchain. But once a company, and there's another one, ELS. I think they're a computer games promotional company. They've just started using the BSV blockchain as well. So all it's going to take is for one of these companies to have actually finished uploading their data to suddenly start using it to show the efficiencies that it's got. So one of the things that it can do is that the issue with having a huge amount of data on a single server or corporate servers is that only that corporation has access to it. So it cannot be shared with any other organization, and it can't be put over the internet because it's just simply too big. It's too big. Whereas the blockchain, the BSV blockchain solves this. When everything is on that blockchain, it can be shared by anyone, anywhere, at any time, anywhere in the world.
Okay. And then if let's say a company wanted to do an audit on it or something, or kind of go over files and stuff, they could have access to it as well, right? Because it's stored and it's kind of public, correct?
Well, exactly. So you can give access and you can deny access because you own that data.
Okay.
But I mean,
Okay.
one of the reasons a lot of people don't want to share data is because they're worried that it might get corrupted. Whereas when it's on the blockchain, you don't have to worry about that because you can't
Yeah.
change it. And if it does get changed, you can see when, who, and you can see when it was done and who did it.
Yeah.
Because it's on the blockchain, and because you own the private keys to that data, you can also deny access to the data, but you can also share that data.
If needed, yeah.
Yeah. It's literally it's a phenomenal system.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's widely known, obviously in the space, right? So I had, to step away from that crypto Twitter and stuff to discover that, because otherwise you get stuck into, the huddling and, when moon and stuff like that, right? So,
Yeah.
and I think people just kind of see it, Bitcoin being like, just the payment type. But I think it can be more than that. But again, I think the focus is for most people is, the moon, and then, transaction, which, I've done a lot of transactions with BTC from, let's say, an exchange to a wallet. And there's a lot of occasions you're kind of sweating on your seat trying to see if it's going to go through, right? Because it takes a while, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, wow, there's going to be something better than that, right? So, yeah, so that was my first, integration into BTC. Be like, okay, is that really it? Is that the best it can do? Because it's not really good, in that sense, right? So,
And so, do you own any BSV yet, or are you still in BTC?
no, I own BSV. I use it. Yeah, I use the Encash wallet, which is really good.
Excellent.
So,
Oh,
yeah, I got into it. What was it? Early 2019, I think. After reading and knowing a bit more about it, it seems like it's tough to really get the picture. Be like 100% sure that's I'm in the right program, or the right, because it seems like there's so many diverging opinions. Like I said before, no, they're the scam, no, they're the scam, no, you are. You know what I mean? So it's difficult to stay on top, and that's what I was saying. Like for someone that's new in the crypto space, then they're like, "What's that fight all about?" You know what I mean? Like, so that's why that part would be nice if that kind of went away a little bit, right? So, but yeah, no, I have BSV, and I like that new version of Handcash now with the like you can send like a text with it and stuff. So that's cool.
yeah, it's really good. So, do you actually own any shitcoins, or are you just all in BSV?
No, I still own a bunch of stuff. I came from the idea like diversifying portfolio, but now I'm realizing a lot of them might not be what they should be. Like
All of them are shitcoins. They are all scams. you know. So this is like the Bitcoin blockchain is the only credible distributed ledger technology. So therefore, you then have to look at the different chains on it. And we've got BTC that purposely don't want to scale because they don't want it to be used as money. So if they don't want it to be used, if it can't function as money, it's not money, and therefore nobody's going to use it, and therefore it's not going to have any value. So their only narrative is a Ponzi scheme, which they try and cover up by slinging terms that are like, oh, store of value, censorship resistant money. It's like, well, look, it's not any of those. It's not going to be used. And then you've got BCH who are saying, oh, well, we want anonymous transactions so that we can buy drugs and sell naughty child send each other naughty child images and stuff like that. But global commerce is never going to use it because, like I said, if you want legal protection in the trade, you have to prove that you have reasonable expectation in the form of having sent that transaction. If that transaction is anonymous, you cannot prove that you've sent it, and you can't even tell that the other party has received it. So that strikes them out. So effectively the only people who are going to use them are drug dealers, but drug dealers don't like being identified as drug dealers. So why would you use something that identifies you as one?
Yeah. For that portion though, like there's still, because I think people like complain about like Monero and stuff. They're trying to hide stuff. They might, but again, in fiat nowadays, you can still do whatever. And you can print some, and then second of all, you can just put it in a suitcase and still carry on with that drug transaction if you want. So I think it'd still be done with regardless of that, because cash is part of the first thing that would be used for that, like for drugs and trafficking and stuff like that. In my opinion, anyway. But
But if it because it's a like a medium of exchange that's a tool, a
yeah,
tool is something that is used, and
yeah,
in terms of money, the most useful one is also the one that the most people use. What's the point in holding something that you can't spend anywhere? You know. So therefore, if you
yeah,
can, so if you created something that commercial and global commerce cannot use because it doesn't provide them legal protection, effectively that is world trade. So the dark markets are only like sort of like 1.8 trillion, whereas global e-commerce alone is 29 trillion, let alone all the other markets with them as well. So therefore you've got this you've got this tiny like minority coin that only criminals use, that it's
yeah,
going to make them easy to track. So even they're not going to want to use it because they're just like, well, if I use this and people know that I'm holding it, they're going to know that I'm a criminal, and I don't want people to know that I'm a criminal. You know,
yeah,
unless you're stupid.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. That could be obviously anything can lead to different use, but obviously if it could be made public at some point and it could be identified to an individual, like obviously now you might not be using it for criminal use, obviously, right? So, and I think that's probably that part is pretty big with being able to audit the transaction later, or let's say for big transactions, like if someone was to pay $100,000 for something and then they can't even go back to the person because they didn't get the product, and then they can't trace anything. Obviously that I think would be a problem, obviously, that in that case BSV would be good in that sense, because they could track it and then you can go back and be okay, yeah, this transaction happened, you paid for it, the other person didn't produce the product that you paid for. And then obviously that could be if you that's in Lightning Network, if you can't find that and be like, nobody's going to spend that money on that network if they can't have any like transaction record, like like a transaction on your Visa or something, right? So
And
I think
also,
that makes sense that way.
yeah, I mean, do you also understand that the issue at the moment that we have with a monetary system is that gold was initially used as the global medium of exchange, but
Yeah,
it had difficulties in the fact that it was because it was people who were sort of weighing gold. So as more and
yeah,
more people came into trade, it became more valuable, and therefore they divided it further. But people didn't mind doing that. They didn't mind trading in gold because it maintained its value because it was deflationary against the cost of goods and services. So in order to speed up trade, they effectively tokenized gold through currency. But the
yeah,
issue with using currency is that currency itself does not increase in value. They just simply have to print more, which actually devalues currency, which means that then businesses are using a medium of exchange that now loses value. So if you think about it, the bank has to put an interest rate on this currency that they give out to people, because if they were giving it out with no interest, people would just simply wait until they got more. It's like a socialist system.
yeah,
So they have to put an interest rate on it in order to give people a kick in the arse, so that they go out and spend it and they generate business with it. But the issue with that is that every time they put interest rate on it, it becomes debt. So they're just simply adding more and more debt to the
yeah,
economy until
yeah,
eventually there's so much debt in the economy that a bubble emerges, nobody can pay it back, and then everybody loses everything. So it's a
yeah,
constant cycle of booms and busts. This is why it's absolutely essential to have a deflationary currency, effectively, which is fixed in supply and divisible rather than inflated. And
yeah,
BSV is the only one that can scale through the blockchain. So when a transaction is done through the blockchain, you can prove that transaction has been done because it's immutable. And because it's that data that people are actually buying in order to upload their data to the blockchain, as storage and for sharing. It's that data that actually has value. So therefore that provides you with the reasonable expectation of the good or service in return, because you've sent the medium of exchange that you can prove has value. So therefore you expect the good or service in return for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm all for that too, because I guess we're just seeing like the Federal Reserve printing money like crazy. And someone today was
Yeah.
just pointing out like the markets are going up, the markets are going up. It's like, yeah, but it's probably just that fake bubble that's, it's going up now, but it's just based on that new stimulus package they put in, that money they put in. But really, is that going to be solid, or are people going to drive the markets up and then to sell to recover that money, right? So um, I think we won't see a steady market for a little bit if they just keep printing money, and then it becomes like, and I think I can't remember what that was, but on Twitter this morning, there's someone saying, so why would I pay taxes if you can just print money? So that was
Yeah.
actually pretty
They've
good.
been
Uh,
rumbled.
why? Yeah, it's like, what would I pay for taxes if let's say you want $1,000 from me, just print it, then that way I don't have to give it to you. You know what I mean? So yeah, it makes sense a little bit for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, you sound as though you're sort of quite open to what I've suggested. I saw that you had BTC on your Twitter profile, and I was just like, might have to have a discussion with this chap.
Oh no, it's that one is the BTC. That's a token used on it's different video platform. It's called Vibravid.io. They're based on like the Tron ecosystem, and it's kind of the token they use to kind of reward people, entice people to watch your videos. So it's kind of Vibravid. It's kind of a BitChute, YouTube type deal, kind of less censorship, that sort of thing, because YouTube has been doing quite a bit of that stuff recently for whatever reason. But yeah, so that's what that one is.
All right.
BT's ZC. There you go. Bitcoin. That's what they call it.
Right, got it. Well, and that's another one that's going to go to zero very soon because everybody will just simply be using BSV, won't they?
Yeah. Well, I think there's one. Isn't there one on BSV? Streamality or something like that?
Oh yeah. Streamanity's on there where you can upload your videos, and then people it's basically it's pay per view. So if you've got
Okay.
if you're producing quality informative content that people want, then obviously they'll be willing to pay for it, and you can make more
Okay.
money through Streamanity than you can through YouTube because you basically on YouTube you're relying on advertising revenue because the material that you produce is given away for free.
Yeah, and and at first it's difficult to crack that algorithm and stuff like that too to get the views and so on. Yeah,
Yeah, it's it's
yeah.
it's
I'll
tricky.
be I'll be looking into that one because I've added some platforms just overall in the blockchain technology and in general just the crypto space. I just wanted to kind of get on different platforms and then see what they have to offer, that sort of thing. So I think Streamality is one that I looked at. I don't know if I can actually put my videos on there. I'll have to look into it, but um, yeah.
Oh, great stuff! And do you wanna while we're recording this, do you wanna tell people what you do to get them onto your channel? Tell them what it is that the information that you provide.
Yeah, so what I provide now, like I said, I started on the channel with, kind of that doing a business online kind of idea, affiliate marketing,
Oh
network
yeah,
marketing, that sort of thing.
yeah,
So that's where I started. But then, obviously, like any business, it takes a while to start. It's not like a tomorrow thing. Like even if people claim that on Facebook, yeah, I make $1,000 my first day
yeah,
online,
yeah,
that sort of thing. So it's like, okay, yeah, you might be lucky. It's fine if you did that 1,000, but are you going to be able to do that on a regular basis throughout your existence, right? So that's a different story. But now I find that since I've been super passionate about cryptocurrency, I find that why not talk about it instead? Like so it comes down to like if you want to do something online and share your passion, that sort of thing. I find that you might as well talk about because I was kind of doing that for the money side, but really is that something that I'm really passionate about? So I was like, yeah, yes and no, right? Yes, I was learning a lot stuff, but then I was like, okay, let's refocus that into more into blockchain technology, more into, it could be like peer-to-peer payments. It could be, real use case. And that's really what I want to get into now. So usually on Mondays, I've been trying to do a couple market Mondays, just kind of going over the main markets. And I think I went over BSV last week, this week. And then what I do as well is like I'll be introducing, Twitch, social media apps or like Streamanity. We were talking about that too, just to present that, and people looking to get knowledge, looking to know a bit more about the space in general. Then you can come into my channel and then discover that, and then get a little reviews on different platforms and get informed to ultimately, create, adoption of cryptocurrencies in our lives, right? So to replace that fiat money that's been printed on a daily basis. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what I'd like to do. Like to share my passion about this, and kind of increase the knowledge amongst the population. Because even at this point, right, we're talking about Bitcoin SV, or it could be BTC. Like barely anyone knows about, like, if you talk about crypto, sometimes they know about Bitcoin. That's pretty much it. Right, but there's so much in that. There's so much to know in the actual system, right? So people invest in BTC or whatever, but do they really know how it works, right? So that's the big question, and probably some don't, right? like you're saying, right? So so it's really kind of go into that, and then obviously I'd like to focus on cryptocurrencies that have like real, use case, like that it can scale for the future, create a better monetary system, better lives for the future. So that's what that channel is about. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Well, do you know that there's only one currency that can do that?
Yeah, and then from your perspective, it's BSV, correct?
Yep. Well, not just my perspective. That's fact from everybody. When they find out what I know, eventually, and they all will do eventually. I like to think it as a mathematical sum. If you've got a mathematical sum with 40 different sums within it, somebody is going to get to the end and have figured it out first before the others. So when that person gets to the end and goes, "Oh, I've worked out, the answer is 102," somebody else who hasn't finished the sum yet will be like, "Oh, I'm not really too sure. It might not be." And they're like, no, it is. I've done the sum already. The answer is 102, But eventually they will realize that the answer is 102 themselves when they get to the end. So that's kind of like where I am. Like, I know that the only credible currency that's got any fundamental value whatsoever is BSV. And other people will know that, but it just depends on how open they are and whether or not they can actually understand what I'm telling them. Because a lot of people can't. Like the concept of this, the paradox of this centralized starting point. So many people don't understand that. Even so, academics are expected to they expect to get answers from books from other people who know, and then they regurgitate the information to other people that make them sound really clever. But there's no book talking about the theoretical side of the paradox of the centralized starting point. That's what you just basically have to. Well, I mean, I figured that out for myself from the experience that I had. Just from my background in sort of financial services and whatnot, and a bit of law, and now I'm just like, right, I just need to tell more people about this, because what I don't want them to do is basically get scammed and be involved in a scam and have bought something that is going to lose them money. So
obviously there are a lot of projects out there probably just there for making dollars and then get out, that sort of thing, but. Yeah, exit
scams. I mean, I presume are you familiar with Litecoin and Cardano?
Yes, Litecoin, Cardano. Yeah, I heard that. Was it Hoskinson? Charles?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Charles Hoskinson.
Did he get out of the actual project? Because I didn't know that. I think I heard you guys talk about it yesterday, I think, on the channel.
Yeah. So he walked off with with an estimated $600 million.
Wow.
Yeah, which is pretty good. And then
I bet she's not struggling too much now.
Well, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, that's basically he's funneled other people's money out of their pockets and lined his own and said thank you very much. which is crazy. And then Charlie Lee has pretty much done the same, except he admitted it. He was just like, look, people, I've created Litecoin, and by the way, I'm going to sell it all, just so you know. And people were just like, oh, okay then, Charlie, yeah, nice one. But his story was, I'm selling this because I don't want people to think that I've got any political incentive or motivation behind it. So I'm going to walk away with what I estimate, to be around 300 million. I'd be like, oh, nice one.
Easy way out.
Yeah, it's honestly these exit scams, when you realise how blatant they are absolutely ridiculous. But what gets me, are you familiar with this OneCoin? Have you heard of a podcast called The Missing Crypto Queen?
Missing crypto? That one? No, I actually don't. No. Yeah.
Oh, so type it in on YouTube. Type in The Missing Crypto Queen. It is fascinating. I think it's like maybe 6 or 8 episodes. I binged the entire series in a day because I was just like, this is phenomenal. Basically, they walked away with 15 billion. 15 billion, yeah, the biggest scam in cryptocurrency, and they didn't even have a distributed ledger. They literally had a spreadsheet, and that was it. Yeah. So people could buy these packages of OneCoin, and they would just simply log on to this website which they'd made themselves, and they were altering the number on a daily basis, and these people were thinking that they were making loads of money.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like at some point, some people, they find like different ways to make money. It's just crazy. If they just spend a bit of time just making it right, like they would end up to the same per amount. But it just, people are getting so creative, scamming people. It's just crazy. Like
because people didn't understand Bitcoin. All they know is that Bitcoin went up like 36 million%. So they're just thinking that these other ones might do the same again, with no fundamental understanding of how it's actually done it. So these people who were buying OneCoin were literally buying it and watching number go up, thinking, it's going up because it just can, because Bitcoin did. Therefore, this is doing the same. They're not interested in how it does it, either because they don't have the intellectual capacity, or because they believe that they are making money and therefore they want to make more money, and they don't want to think that they're being scammed. To
go back to actually Bitcoin, I think there was a conversation I was having with on Twitter, of all places. I think someone was saying, like, why would you want bigger blocks? So it's like that way, the smaller blocks make it like safer trading system in general. So what would you have to say about that? Like, because I was like, okay, but it's like, why would you stay with little ones if you can make bigger transactions, bigger, like you say, putting data on the system and stuff like that?
Yeah, so this is the narrative that the BTC have sold their holders. So what they have they have sold them on this idea of censorship-resistant money. And therefore they were saying that, right, in order for this to be censorship-resistant, everybody has to have control of their own money, and everybody needs to store the blockchain on their own computer. And that way, you control it. But the thing is, if the blockchain is stored on everybody's computer, it cannot scale for the world to use. So therefore, they were saying that this was the irony, in that they were so concerned about this censorship-resistant money that they were forgetting the fact that it can't function as money. And money is a function. So if it can't function as money, it's not money, and therefore can't be used as money. And therefore is effectively, you're putting money into a Ponzi scheme, hoping that other people will buy into what you're telling them, saying, oh yes, you're not meant to spend it, you're meant to hodl it, and it's censorship resistant. It's like, well, what's the point? What's the point in anything being censorship resistant if it's never used and not useful for anything? So but this is the narrative they're selling them, because like I said, they're financed by corporations that have got suspiciously close links to the Federal Reserve, and you can understand why the Federal Reserve wouldn't want Bitcoin to succeed because they've been able to print their own money for the last, since 1945 or 1971 when it wasn't gold backed. So they've been able to print money for the last 50 years and line their own pockets with it.
Yeah.
Whereas and again, everything has to go through the blockchain because like I said, it's the data that has value. And because it's the data that has value, if a dispute arises within a trade, if it has gone through the blockchain, which gives it value, then you have reasonable expectation of the good or service in return for that. That's the only way that the data has value, is once it goes through the blockchain. Because if it doesn't go through the blockchain, it's not immutable. And if it's not immutable, it can just simply be deleted. It can be cracked, hacked, altered, and changed. And unless it goes through a third party that has a money transmitter license, so is therefore a money service business, of which the Lightning Network is not, you have no legal recourse. So
it's just go back to banks at that point then.
Exactly, yeah. It's all absolute cobblers that they've been fed, and these people believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I was actually watching another conspiracy theory about the Q, and they were talking about the Federal Reserve and all that. And it wouldn't be surprising in the sense that they're trying to block Bitcoin, obviously, because they want to keep, getting the monopoly over like the money system, the banking system, obviously. So why would they want something else to take over, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, well, that's amazing. So another one who has been awoken. See, this is what I'd like to do. So if you know anybody else who you think would like to will have questions for me that maybe you're having trouble answering, I'm more than happy to answer all the questions that they've got. Because
awesome,
like the idea behind this channel is that I want to be telling people, what they need to know, whereas a lot of other interviewers just simply ask questions themselves and they're trying to find out information, and they don't know whether or not they're being fed a whole load of cobblers. Whereas I know if I'm being fed a whole load of cobblers because I know this stuff. So therefore, anybody who is like a BTC or they've got questions about BTC, or they're in BCH, or they're on Ethereum, or they've got questions about any other coins, get on this show, let's have a chat. I'll tell them what they need to know and answer all their questions and see if they understand it. This one, I mean, you've been great because I've told you and rationalized, sort of told you and rationalized the reasons the reasons why and what for, and you've been nodding your head going, actually, that makes sense. But you'll be surprised how many people won't understand it and won't ever get it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you got in touch yesterday and then shared with the different articles. So that was good. Yeah, like I said, I was digging into BSV like even before that, and then I kind of went away from it a little bit, and then I'm kind of seeing that financial system again with this crisis that we're having, and I kind of find interest again into that and be like, okay, well maybe it's got some like terrific potential at this point, right? And I'm all open, like I'm not like closed on anything, like when we're talking like crypto space, I'd be more than happy like to be part of something that makes it better down the road, right? So and then thanks for sharing that knowledge with me. It's great, and then I'll be able to share even like some of the what I find amazing platforms that BSV is building, like say on the social media like Twitch. I think I discovered another thing like Baymail. That with Money Button that works really good. And Cash works really good, and I'm sure like I'm just naming a few there. But
SentB, Simply Cash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we've got like SimplyCash on another phone. So I was trying to get a wallet as well for my son. So get him
Right.
involved, and then we could exchange on the phone, and I could show him how to do it, that sort of thing. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just kind of an intro, not like nothing crazy about like money, 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 but it's just like just kind of intro about what he might expect later on in his life, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So whereabouts are you located?
I'm currently in Victoria, Canada, so on the west coast.
Ah, fantastic.
Yeah, I'm on the west coast, and then but I'm from the province of Quebec, so French province of Canada. So
Yeah, yeah.
if you can tell by the accent or whatever, but I
Yeah.
can still speak English pretty good. So I'm
Yeah. Excellent. Well,
yeah.
tell you what.
So yeah. So
Yeah, what I'll do is we'll just wrap this up. But what I'll do is well, I'll stop recording, but we can have a chat later, and I'll link you up on Twitter
yeah,
with some other people I know. So yeah, what I would like to say is thank you very much for coming on the show and being one of my very first ever guests.
for sure. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me as well. So it was good to learn from you as well. So there's a lot of good information. You're a lot more to technicals than I am. So I'm trying to get all those terms down now. I'm trying to read more into it, and the more I read, the more I get to understand it a bit better. Because I just don't want to be that person just trading it, but and then if someone asks me what is it, then I can go on and on about it, right? So yeah.
Right, brilliant. And I shall just press stop recording right there.